right?
7 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah. How you been? Been dealing with this lockdown? Okay.
Very busy.
You've been very busy.
Yeah, really busy. Yeah.
Really? Okay, that's interesting. I was actually gonna ask you about that.
Do you want me to turn the lights on?
No, that's fine. That's fine. I can see it perfectly. So I was actually going to ask you about that. How has this affected your job, what you do? Because I thought that seeing as people can't go out, because I'd look around what you do, and it's interesting. In fact, on your Facebook, Danny, there's 3 different websites you link to. Only one of them I could get was working. When I had a little look around what you're doing, that was the Britannia K9security.com. The other 2 didn't seem to be working. But is that the main website?
Yeah, I think they just linked the pages there now. It's the main website to what we do, yeah.
Right, okay. So everyone out there, Danny, be interesting for you to tell them a little bit about what you do and stuff. But it's interesting to see that you've been busier than ever. But yeah, go ahead, my man. Tell people a little bit about what you do.
Predominantly, we're a security company. So, like you say, in these times, we're kind of cast as key workers, whatever that may be. But we're key workers, and we do close protection, which is a bit quiet at the moment, obviously, because no one wants a lot of people around them. But we generally do like dog handling, so security dog handling. That's what we do.
Right.
Static guarding. So there's a lot of places that are closed down at the moment. So obviously they need guards. So NHS, we do the hospitals, we do all sorts of stuff.
Right. So the places that, yeah, because no one's in them, they want no one to get burgled. That's fair enough. Like, so what you've lost in close security, you've made up for with other things.
But a lot of security companies have struggled really because they do door work and stuff like that, door supervision, so the nightclubs are closed. But yeah, I mean, I do examining as well, so I'm an examiner for the security dog industry. So predominantly, there's 3 main associations in security dogs. I have to do their quarterly continuation training, I have to do their yearly certification. So we can still run as an educational school as well, so I can teach at the 2 metre distance, blah blah blah. You know.
Right, and you're based in you're actually based. Yeah, you're in Essex, but you're in Chapel Heath. Is that where the place where we're all based? Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Cool. So just for people, so it's interesting why I wanted to get you on here, Dan, just because I think like it's an interesting conversation, and also around this time, we like to look at the alternative world, everything in the alternative world, and crypto has been in the public eye quite a bit recently, and there could be some people that could be out or gain to make a lot of money if they've invested in the right thing in the next year or 2, and they may be needing someone like yours services if they got a lot of money. So just wanted to talk a little bit about like your journey into this, Danny, really, and what got you there, because it's a real interesting. It's not like your usual job. It's an interesting job, and especially you get in situations that other people won't really ever get into. So what was it that got you into this line of work, and what's your background, Danny?
I was an East End kid, you know, bit of a thug, you know, at the time. I went through very much the rave scene in like 89 through to 95. I got up to some bad things, you know, when I was young, and I got thrown out of my house. I lived in a bedsit on my own for quite a while. I used as well, you know, so it became a really spiraling, out of control problem for me. And basically what happened was I lost a lot of people's trust over the years, and a lot of dignity for myself and stuff like that. And then I realised I had an incident where I'd nearly took a bullet, and I had to move away up to Manchester for a few years to get away from the scene down here in London and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And, I started working quite hard when I was up there, various jobs from a lollipop man to security to road work, working on the motorways, all different types of stuff really, and just clearing my head and stopping what I was doing. And when I come back, I hadn't seen my mother for many years, my father for many years, and they were good people, you know, they were hard working, people. My father was a British Telecom manager for 35 years. My mother was a paramedic and a nurse all her life till retirement. So we come from a good background, military as well, my grandfather and stuff like that. So when I come back, I kind of got on the straight and narrow, and I worked in Stepney actually in a minicab office for quite a while, and I ended up being one of the most sought after controllers because my mind was fast. So I was always thinking. Everyone wanted to drive and work on my shift because they all earned a lot of money, and I was doing martial arts for many years. So I kind of, what happened was, how it all really started for me, I drove for Tim Westwood from Radio 1. And Tim basically said to me, he'd been shot at around that sort of time. And he said to me, do you fancy doing my security with some other people? So I said to him, yeah, I'll have a go at it. So I ended up going on the road with Tim Westwood from Radio 1 for quite a while, doing a lot of gigs with him and stuff like that. Dangerous, we had crazy times. And I ended up taking me close protection courses, working. I've worked from everybody from I've done all the Essex stars when they first started, Peter Andre, because they were all managed by Claire, so we've done all of the Essex stars. I've done Hollywood stars. I've done rugby teams. I've done all the footballers you can mention. So it just spiraled and spiraled. And one particular day, a friend of mine come to my martial arts school and he said to me, which was in Silvertown, funny enough, it was called Britannia Gym. That's where the name Britannia K9 comes from, Britannia Village in Silvertown. So I used to teach all the kids, and then Tim Westwood agreed to sponsor all the children. So I took all the local kids from the Canning Town area and the Silvertown area and just helped them, and got them into sport and tried to push them in the right direction in life, health, fitness, that type of stuff. And we was really successful. And basically it spiraled from Tim Westwood. I'd done all my courses, and then a guy come to our club one day and he said, I was doing security for him anyway, and he said, do you want to be a dog handler? So I said, I'll have a go. He said, well, I need a bodyguard that's a dog handler. So he took me on a course, and I worked in Commercial Street in London for 6 weeks, unpaid. He gave me a dog, and then he put me in Surrey in charge of, at the time was an American fella who was one of the directors of UPS Parcels. And I lived in his house for about 3 months, guarding him and his wife they was under threat from Animal Liberation Front, because UPS was delivering to Animal Life Science at Huntingdon. So we kind of protected his house, which was quite a fun job. It got a bit crazy now and again. And then basically for me, the rest of the story is I worked, to shorten this off really, I worked in many events all around the country as a rapid response dog handler. From Glastonbury to the Dorset Steam Fair, massive events, and I've done that for quite a while, and joined the Territorial Army, really cleaned myself up from what I was, got all my qualifications, become a teacher, got a teacher's qualification, I've done everything I could possibly do to be the best of what I could be, and I will not stop, until I'm asleep when I'm in my coffee. Yeah, I'm not going to stop. I'm too motivated. So it just kind of went from that moment of when I was guarding that guy. I ended up traveling around Europe, learning my skills, bettering my skills. I didn't really learn off many people in England, only a couple of people. I competed in national level in dogs for what we call IPO, which is like protection, tracking and obedience. Then I'm the second man ever to do the Dutch police dog qualification in Britain.
It's interesting. I want to come back to that, but carry on.
But then it kind of it just spiraled and spiraled for me. We built a brand off the back of the kids, that Britannia gym, and we just worked at it. And then basically one day, the best part of the story for me is, which it's a very fond memory for me. We joined, the Lee Valley, the Lee Valley, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Lee Valley Parks. It was called Parks Police. So we were the first security officers to ever be given a police blessing as such. So we could officially arrest under bylaws. So it was the most interesting job I've ever done. You know, I'm not, from my background, what I was when I was young, and I carried a warrant card. You know, it's like, wow, people were looking at me like, are you serious? Like, you know, from what you'd done when you was in raves in like 1990 to 95 to get where I was quite a journey, you know. I kept myself clean for a while. Anyway, so we've done the patrolling and we've done different areas. And one day we was playing with our dogs, training them at Hackney Wick. Two Irish fellas come over and said, do you fancy doing the Olympic Park security for 2012? And I said to him, you got to be joking, ain't you, mate? I said, like, we're patrolling around here all the time. You see us. He said, give me your number and I'll make it happen. So, you know, I thought nothing of it. He phoned me 2 weeks later and he said, do you want a meeting with us, Danny, with your partner, your patrol partner? So I said, we went for the meeting. Lo and behold, they started closing down 12 kilometres of area for Stratford, and then they give us the job, you know, and it just spiraled and spiraled and spiraled to the point where I couldn't handle it anymore. It was just too much for me. And a friend of mine who I originally started with back in the day with the UPS story said to me, I'll help you out because the team that I work for are certified to the hill. We can support you. But what would you want? So we went up to Birmingham, we had a meeting, and we sat around the table and they said, look, this is going to be a big project. And I said, I know it is. It's getting big already, you know. And he said, what would you want financially for this? And I said, I don't know. See, none of these stories, Ryan, have ever been told. You know, like the media don't really know about these stories. And I said, I don't really know what I want. I said, he was expecting me to say 50 grand a year, you know, something, you know, 30 grand a year, whatever at the time. And I said to him, I want £1 an hour. And he goes to me, my mate kicked me in the side of the leg. He said, what are you talking about? These geezers, they're loaded. I said, mate, we want £1 an hour of every man that works for us. Right. And I want it written and signed. And he goes to me, he said, are you mad? I said, no. I said, just leave it alone. Because my mate was a Jamaican fella. He was like, Ross. He was like, you can't be doing this, Dan. So the story is, I mean, I still got the certificate to this day. The time I started with the Olympics, I had 2 people working for me a day. The time I left, I had 1,500 people on shift a day. And I took an hour off every one of them.
So, right, I got what you were saying. Okay, so were they in security for the Olympics? Were they paid or was that voluntary?
Yeah, they were all paid. Everyone was paid. But I had 1,500 staff a day working for me, and that man had to pay me £1 an hour out of every single one of them. It was not bad. A story from like rags to riches. It was phenomenal. I've never earned that money in my life, and we do all right. We do really well, but it's like.
But you wish it went on for longer.
And he's like, I can't believe you've done that, and you got away with it. And I paid all my taxes, you know, and it was just, I met everybody, Seb Coe, Theresa May, you know, we had 1,000 guards, you know, and then G4S bought out the contract from us, and I carried on working for G4S. And then my girlfriend at the time, you know, said to me, like, you can't do this no more. You know, it's too stressful for you. They want you to be something that you ain't, Danny. You're a nice character, and they're making you into a robot, you know. So it was, they was a good firm to work for, solid firm. I mean, they're one of the biggest employers in the world, you know, and they bought all of our dog section and they bought me. And I worked with some great special forces guys and worked with the on-site police, and we built something very massive for the 2012 Olympics. And then I left and we started our own company, and the rest is history. I went back on Games Day to do bodyguarding for the gold medalists, to take them through Stratford up into the tower blocks to have their interview. And that's pretty much it. And then I ended up seeing a load of old friends again and ended up on the radio doing MCing on stage. I mean, I'm going back to the raves. So now I go back to the raves and I see them all partying and doing what they do. I'm completely clean and I stand on stage MCing for 7 hours. I mean, I've got a regular radio show now that I'm on, and I'm on tonight at 9 o'clock.
What station is that?
Planet Force Radio. It's on digital radio. It's the first ever pirate radio station in London.
All right, okay. So
Yes, I'm their host, their MC for parties, and I've got my own show called the Super Smiley Show. So all we do is just try and keep people positive and happy and spread a good,
That's what they need right now. Danny, yeah. No, it's an awesome story, mate. I want to go into a few things. Danny, how old are you now?
48.
All right, yeah. So you're like my sister's age, yeah. The original cheesy quaver, the original ravers, like getting involved, right. Yeah. But no, it's a real interesting story. That one about G4S is an interesting company, and I can sort of people I've heard of them, but like worked with them before. You said a bit robotic, and they take your moral compass out of you, which is not what you want, really.
Then, boy, I wanted to do things my way, and it worked. We developed that Olympic Park. No one can say they did. With that security section, we developed that and we handed it over. It was given to them, So, and then they done what they done with the rest of it. But we used our street knowledge and our team to develop the whole thing. You understand what I mean? Obviously, there's a lot of people involved, but on the ground we was there 24/7.
Well, yeah, you have to. I mean, having the knowledge of the area is a massive thing as well, right? That area there's certain people in that area. There's certain things that get done, but it's a great story, mate, and it's always good. It's funny how you said you were a certain way, and you're completely clean now. For people out there, what's giving you more? Because I say more fun, because fun can be fleeting, but what's been more worthwhile to you? Like, what one did you say every day fulfills you more? The partying, or where you are now, having more responsibility and building everything that you're doing?
You know what, mate? Just seeing people happy, trying to make people happy. I know how it can be to be sad. You understand what I mean? And right now, for me, the partying will come back. For a lot of us, there's a lot of people in the entertainment industry that I know personally, big names. They're really struggling right now. I deal with a lot of messages coming in because where I'm on the radio all the time, for me, it's not about money or anything like that. I cleaned up my past and really changed my future in a positive way. I do meditation. I'm part of an historic Buddhist school. I do, like tomorrow morning, I do an 11 o'clock charity Qigong class.
Love all this stuff.
Drives me. Do you understand?
Yeah, 100%. It's what drives, exactly. It's like when you get up every day and you've got a purpose to get out of bed, it's easy to get out of bed because you know what you're doing, you're on your purpose and your passion. And Danny, the funny thing is with that is you probably had to go through that before to get here. But would you be the person you are now if you didn't go through what you went through before?
No, the thing is you can read all the books you want. You can take online courses, but actually doing things for real and being there and having that knowledge can help a lot of other people. And it helped me massively, I used my street knowledge. People hated it. People look at me like I'm a tattooed thug. Yeah, I might have been. Yeah, but I ain't now. I can go and sit in a businessman with a pair of Louboutins on and drive up in a Bentley. Do you understand what I mean? That's the difference. So, people hate that. People are jealous of it. But I worked hard for it and I've been through hell to get it. You understand what I mean? But it's not all about that. It's not all about that. I think positivity and gratitude is a massive thing for me,
But your past and being that's in and being around it is why you know it, and that's why it's given. I mean, it's like the journey of why I do what I do now. I was very ill, so now I help people overcome it, and same as you, like you've been through that, and so now you've seen that side of it, and you've come out the other side, and the journey is really interesting. So a few things, because especially around what you do, it's quite an interesting thing. I mean, this is the thing. Generally, people you go into your line of work seem to have quite a strong military background. The people that I've spoken to before, they've either got some sort of like work or even Navy SEAL, even like if it's special forces or whatever. So military, you said you had a military background in the family, but you yourself were never in the military.
Yeah, no, I was London Scottish. Reserves.
Oh, reserves.
I always done cadets right through. That's one thing I really did do, right up to sergeant. Then I'd done my grandfather. I ended up gaining. My grandfather was a Cameronian. He was a piper. He was in the military for over 20 years. Both my grandparents were actually, but one in particular, one of my grandparents. My nan was Scottish. My other grandfather was from Canning Town. He was a very street orientated man, but a very strong man. You know, he was head of Rothman's security, for the cigarette factory in Silvertown for a long time, you know, and he kind of got me into, he always educated me about security, and he seen me with dogs. I always had a passion for dogs, and he said, you're going to do that one day. And he said, you'll join the army. He said, you'll work on it. And he didn't lie. And you know what I mean? He said to me, that's what you've got to do, and you pursue it. And he always stuck by me when he knew that I wasn't right in my head. You understand what I mean? He was a pillar for me, my grandfather, really was.
It's something that seems to be lost on people today. Like the elders of any tribe, Danny, like the elders had so much wisdom because they've seen things, so they can see where you're going. It's like something when people look back at people and say, I can see a lot of what I used to be like in you. I can see a lot of me in you. Is in like, you know, when people look back, and so they can see that, and that's things that's really important.
It's powerful, and people need to listen to them, really. You know what I mean? And I did. I listened to him, very educated, and even though he was a strong man, I listened to him, and I went the right way. You know.
Well, it's amazing that connection with grandparents in terms of, you know, everyone loves their mum. Well, most people, you know, out there, obviously the situations are not, but most people, you know, mum and dad are huge figures, and people, there's no one like your mum and dad, but the bond that people have with their grandparents, it's almost like, you know, they get the best of the child because, you know, mum and dad have to discipline them, whereas nan and granddad, you know, the ones that they can go to, and they're such strong characters as well because they've got even more wisdom than your parents, and so it's no wonder that you had a strong relationship with him.
The older parents, I mean, they had a lot of kids in the East End in them days, 7, 8, 9 kids they had. You know what I mean? It's like my nan and granddad were like the pillar of our family. Do you know what I mean? We all went to them. You know, I had a hard time with my mum and dad. I'm not going to lie. They was great parents, but, you know, I let them down, you know, and it's like, it was difficult in them years when I was going through a lot of problems because they didn't really understand. It took me till like last year to actually ask my dad, you know, what happened, you know, and he went, do you know what, son? He said it was like, I was going to these things myself to find out what you was doing because I didn't know anything about it. And it just frightened us. Do you know what I mean? He said like, and you wasn't stopping, so we had to let you go. Do you know what I mean? But you feel like I needed them there. Do you understand what I mean? But really, they didn't know what was going on. So I can't blame them. And I tell you what, it taught me the biggest lesson in life. I was on my own. Do you know what I mean? For many years. And I had to start having children, and I had to crack on. I had no option. You know
Dan, have you ever looked into Stoicism, Dan?
To where?
Stoicism. Have you ever looked at it? It's a philosophy. No, you'd love it. I'll send you some stuff afterwards. It's like Marcus Aurelius and the top of like the 5 last emperor, like the top 5 emperors of Rome. But it's like Stoicism is like a philosophy, and if everyone lived by it, especially like that in terms of you know, you're on your own, but it's when you control your mind and your thoughts and your actions, and everything comes from that. And like you said, your journey, it's life will teach you this anyway. And people can, I'm not saying they're not hard circumstances, there are, but you know, everyone's got circumstances. It's how you react to them. And like you taking ownership, it's like Jocko Willink, you might have heard of him. He's got a book called Extreme Ownership. Yeah, and it's about doing those things. And so, I was want to get into a bit about this because when it comes to like health, Danny, when it comes to the alternative world and being able to take care of yourself and taking ownership, one of the things that gives people, I see a lot of people that are entrepreneurs, successful, they all seem to have a background in some sort of martial art because it brings about discipline. So you mentioned a few things that you're into. Like, what age did you get into martial arts, and what would you say the one you gravitated to the most? And what was the one probably you say you get used the most in any situations that you may have like encountered?
I started originally when I was probably about 8 years old in Wanstead with a guy called Ray Burrows at the time in a church. And he was a very, very good karate man. He was actually, him and my dad used to talk on CB radio in them days. They used to have a CB in the kitchen. My dad was called Beck, and he was called the Gate Man. I'll never forget it. probably, I don't have much memories of my youth. I really don't. But, you know, he got me into karate, and I've done the karate for quite a while. And I kind of dabbled. I went from karate to jiu-jitsu in East Ham. Place in East Ham. And then after that, I went to taekwondo, and I kind of liked kicking. So I ended up utilising everything, and ended up basically my kids. I carried on for quite a while doing karate, and then my kids, when they were very young, I see a club that was round the corner to my house in East Ham, and it was in the church that my mum and dad got married in, St Barnabas Church. So I ended up taking them there to a guy called Mike, and we was also training together as a family in Rokeby School in Stratford with some good friends of mine now doing Thai boxing. So I basically took my grades. I worked underneath the instructor in East Ham for quite a while, ended up an assistant instructor, then become an instructor, and I kind of outclassed the guy. He was a very, very strange guy. He would sign people in smoking a cigarette. You know, it was very old school martial arts. He was a bit rough with people. It was, in them days doing martial arts, people would make you run with bare feet, you know, on the street. It was different. Hard. It was hard, you know, doing it. And anyway, the kids loved it. We got into it. And one day he tried to choke me out, and I choked him out. And he ran out. And He closed up. He closed. He never opened again.
Really?
So, and we want to train with you. So I went and started the kickboxing club in Britannia Village, got a hall, paid for it, ended up with ample amounts of students. It was phenomenal. I used to take them all around in coaches and all of that, all over the place, fighting everywhere. So really, my main style was jiu-jitsu, which I learned from Mike, which was stand-up Japanese jiu-jitsu, not MMA type stuff.
Right.
And kickboxing and Thai boxing mixed. So I kind of built my own self-defense style. Then I met a couple of other instructors, a guy called Dave Turton from the Self-Defense Federation. He made me an instructor. He looked at my style. He made me an instructor. The AMA supported me, the Amateur Martial Association. I ended up getting a second dan black belt. I probably got about 1/3 dan black belt in kickboxing, 1 second dan black belt in jiu-jitsu. I've done pressure points as well. I've studied that for a while. I studied samurai sword as well for a little while.
Interesting.
And then I come out of the Japanese arts. Basically, I got divorced, and I come out of that and I carried on training my own way. And I was teaching self-defense actually for a Russian Sistema guy. His name's Rob Poyton. And he said to me one day, I was teaching on his courses, self-defense. He does special forces training it's like Spetsnaz style, yeah?
Mm.
So there's only one person who can teach you, and it's a guy called Jim Uglo. So I was like, okay, I'm going to find this guy. He says Kung Fu, but you might like it. So I phoned this Jim Uglo, and I said, Jim, my name's Danny Lyons, but I've done this, done that, blah, 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 blah. And he went, let's meet. So I went and met him. I said, no, I don't want to meet. I want to train. And I've ended up his disciple now. I've been to Hong Kong every year for the last 6-7 years. I mean, he's a phenomenal martial artist. I've got guys who train with me that are 90, 80, 68, 70. I mean, my teacher's 67. You wouldn't think he's older than 50. It's like, whatever this art is good for me. Because the way I look at it, I've done the crash bang wallop training. Yeah, I can still do that now. This is very aggressive training, what I do. But internally, this man has taught me so much about my body. So my art now is Hungar. It's called
How do you spell that, Dan?
Huegar. Hungar. Or Hung Kyun. Hung Kun. He is one of the Yang family. He is one of the only original Yang family teachers for Tai Chi, which is an odd really, because there's only one other guy in America. My teacher's he's got a school in Switzerland, Germany, France, Belgium, Holland.
Really?
Norway, Finland. He's got schools everywhere. I mean, this has really affected my teacher, because my teacher used to teach away every weekend. I mean, he's a machine. You know, he goes West. He never missed a West Ham game. You know, he's a proper Cockney. You know, but you would never know like what he's been doing. He started in Soho, you know, in the 70s, like late 60s, you know, in Chinatown. It's phenomenal. I mean, it's
really interesting. It's a way of life, right? Because this is what people. It's when people do yoga, they don't realise that that's just one part of it. It's a physical practice of yoga. There's a whole part of it, and it's the same with martial arts. So every martial art is a physical part of it, but the whole philosophy used to embody like this is why I like used to have master and student, because it was like you'd go through a whole process of learning, and the master would teach you things that, you know, that other people wouldn't. It's like back in the day. This is why surgeons used to get called Mister rather than Doctor, because to be a surgeon, you never used to have to go through doctorate training. You had to just learn off a surgeon. So you'd be learning off a surgeon. That's why you used to be Mister. But it's a similar way when it comes to this, and it's really, they teach you much. The physical is just one aspect. The rest of it's discipline. Even healing, like all these martial arts big into their Chinese medicine, like healing the meridians of the body, what's affecting what. He'd be a really interesting person to talk to.
I mean, he does bone setting. He does. I mean, Chan Chung in Hong Kong was his main teacher. He met the Queen, you know, in the 70s. I mean, his son messaged me tonight. He's like 85. You know, his son Edward. He said, like, this is my dad. You know, meeting the Queen in 75. He sent it to me tonight, like, to watch. You know, he was in the Rotary Club. He was such a well-known fella, but he was, they made Ditdar. You know what Ditdar Jow is? You know, like for healing, bringing out bruising and stuff like that.
Okay.
My teacher makes his own medicine and stuff like that. I mean, we spoke about COVID the other day, and he's totally conspiracy. It's all a conspiracy. I'm like, are you going to have this injection, Jim? And he's like, nope. No, he said, Dad, got a doctor. He said, I've never had a doctor in my life. I was like, no way. He went, no, I ain't got a doctor. He said, I've done everything myself. If I've been ill, I've broke anything, I've dealt with it myself. I'm real.
Well, this is why I say to people, what's going on right now. It's like, it's no coincidence. All the healthiest people in the world are all singing off the same hymn sheet. None of them get ill. They all know what's going on. And a lot of what we do, it comes from Hippocrates and the godfather of natural medicine, and also our Vedic medicine, Chinese medicine, natural healing. It all comes from it. And there's a reason why these things have been around for so long, because they work. And it looks at the body as a whole. Everything I do, like in my programs, like we put in meditations, Qigong, Tai Chi. We do all this because it's all about building that internal life force of the body. So it's really interesting, Danny. I think I might have to have a chat with this guy, maybe even have a session with you guys, because it's interesting.
Yes. And what he's taught me about the body, I mean, what I learned in martial arts was really good. I had some really great instructors, like I say, Dave Turton, Soki Brian Dossett, Kevin Pell. I mean, they're fantastic instructors. But what he has taught me about the body, you know, when I do a class on a Saturday morning, and there's a load of old ravers on there, and all these different people come up because they're listening to the radio, you know, and I've really got them all positive on the radio, because that shows, I just try and beam so much positivity at the moment, because there's so many people really suffering from this.
100%.
So sad to see, you know, and to give someone that bit of positivity, teaching them to breathe properly, exercise, you know, the messages after, they're like, wow, like, I'd never thought of doing anything that will join me next week, because there's more. Do you know what I mean? It's like, people just, it's so sad to see what's going on, man. It really is, Ryan. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it.
I look at this and I think to myself, every single person who seems to be getting ill, bar some, and some people have lost people, and I'm so sorry for that, I've heard a lot of rumours about people not being able to have bodies unless they put COVID-19 on the certificate, all of this type of stuff, Every person I look at that have got something underlining, whether they're a heavy drinker, they're a drug user, they're unfit, you know, they're smoking. I see it all the time, and I think to myself, is it just me? Like, I'm just going about my business. I'm not, if I've got to wear a mask, I'll wear a mask. I'm, you know, I'll keep distance from people as per these guidelines, etc. But what is really going on here? I mean, it's like,
Well, yeah, we've covered this. You probably listened to some of my stuff. We've covered this. Me and a guy yesterday, a couple of days ago, called Don Waterson. We went into deep. I mean, we've gone through this quite a lot. But people that we've been studying these. I was just saying, Danny, we've been studying these companies and what's been going on for a long time, and everyone in my world had known this has been coming. We didn't know they'd do it so quickly. We didn't know it would be done so efficiently. We didn't realise most of the world would fall for it when everything they say, they come out of one thing and they change the goalpost and they say, oh, masks are not necessary, and then 1 mask, 2 masks, 3 masks now, and anal swabs. It's like they're taking the piss. This is all, if you look into some certain things like symbolism and stuff, it's a lot of it's very satanic and a lot of it's very sinister. But as you said, we go into it, and unfortunately, look at your guy saying not taking the vaccine. Of course he's not taking the vaccine because he knows what creates health, and poison will never do that.
Taking the vaccine the other day, and he's took it, and I think to myself, and it's so sad to see, that your grandmother wants you to stand 5 metres away from her and all that, but yet you can go in Tesco's. Mean, come.
There's studies showing, Danny, as well, there's been loads of studies showing this, but in cancer wards, the healing went up when people are, when people have family, human contact around them, it's huge. These things are all, you might notice, there was actually a study the other day showing that the KGB in the 60s did a study where they basically brainwashed someone for 2 months. They took a group of people, and they said 2 months was the time when if you brainwash someone enough for 2 months, it doesn't matter how much evidence you show them to the contrary, they'd never believe it. And this is what's gone on.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, for me, when I'm on Centre Force Radio and I'm doing these shows and stuff like that, I mean, you can feel the negativity. Like, you go through Facebook and you just see it. I mean, people are really suffering, but there is a way out. It's just want to do it. Exercise, health, well-being, positivity. That can change everything.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
This is why you love Stoicism, Danny, because it says it's all about. It says you can't change the outside world. Meditation.
I meditate daily. I mean, for me, I had serious anger problems as well. I ain't gonna lie. I'm always busy, so little things could really gripe me and give me the ump. We called it the old monkey mind, don't we? Do you know what I mean? It's like I now, if I visualise and I do my mantras, my mudra, my visualisation, wow, I'm set for the day, mate. I'm going to sleep tonight. I used to get terrible anxiety. I don't get that anymore. To be honest, it's given me a reset, mate.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, why it's so good? It's like I actually was writing a post back this morning, my morning routine. Like, when you set yourself up to start the day right, it's amazing the carryover it has. But also, like, it's probably because you had so much going on, you couldn't have a clear head, and so it was like almost like the fuse went. Whereas if you do these practices which clear your mind, you feel a lot more settled, a lot more relaxed, slow down, and it's quick. Yeah, that's a big difference. You can be clear in the mind, clear the thought process, and you're not so easily triggered. And that's because today's world, everything's instant gratification, everything's very, very quick. And so this is why it's interesting that you've come that far, Dan, and your journey is really interesting, and especially around martial arts, and it's probably brought being calm in your situation, like when you're doing security, like having that when everything around you could be going can be quite explosive. I'm guessing having that calmness, that peace of mind is great.
You can control people better when you're calm. I don't care what anyone says. Do you know what I mean? You people can feel your aura. They can feel your energy. Do you understand what I mean? When you're talking, when you're showing demonstrations, when you're doing something, people look at you differently. You feel when your confidence is up and when everything's better, and you set yourself up daily, you're in a different frame of mind. You don't have to use violence. You feel different. You project a different energy. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like
100%.
I haven't. If it goes pear-shaped, I'm ready. But if it doesn't, I can genuinely.
But it's the funny thing, Dan. Everyone I know in the martial arts game, or who's a master, or my coaches, all of them are very proficient in self-defense. They're like the calmest people on the planet, because they know if it ever come down to it, they will, but they never want to use it. But they're really, really calm. and they exude confidence when it comes to that, which is, and so like when you, this is like, even because you work a lot with dogs, right? So you guys, you said before, it's interesting you said about learning in Dutch, and there's companies I know that sell like protection dogs, and it's interesting how that a lot of them get taught in Dutch, these dogs. Is there a particular reason for that?
Because most of the protection, I never really got into the protection dog industry, and I'll tell you why. Because for me, I could have carried it and really done well out of it, because I'm that way inclined. If I do something, I'm not going to stop. It doesn't matter what my competitors are. I'm just going to keep going. I posted something last night from Denzel Washington. I don't fall back. I fall forwards. You know, and me, yeah. So for me, the protection dogs. I mean, a lot of people were buying protection dogs from abroad, Holland, Germany, that were what we would call fouled sport dogs. I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't mind saying this because it's the truth, you know. So them dogs were partly trained for sport or whatever in that language. Yeah, like I said to you, IPO, KMPV, these type of protection dog sports. So people would buy them. 90% of the time, they've got to train them in that language because they're already trained, and then they just change it around a little bit, make it a little bit more streetwise for the dog, a little bit more suspicion, and then sell them. That's the reality. You know, right. There's a few people who I could mention, which I won't, that are doing it very well, and there's a lot of people that are not doing it very well. It's like anything in life. You know, it's the main reason they're trained in them languages.
Right. Okay.
And I both because I've competed with them in them countries. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So you have to be, you have to know. So when it comes to it, so I want to just get into this because, like, you being calm is obviously going to rub off on that dog. You know, if your dogs seem to imitate their owners or imitate the people that they're around. So for you, you still work with, you said not protection dogs like that, but you still have, what would you call it when you have a dog, man with a dog? What's that called?
Now I've got some here in my kennels at my house that I'm training for people. I don't really like doing it because the reason I didn't like doing it, going back to the original part of what I was saying, is because of the aspect of children. If dogs bite, there's always an element that fear in my mind that things will go pear-shaped, and I don't want that on my conscience, you know, because if I look at it, I train, you know, I've tested some dogs that were apparently protection dogs. I've gone in the house and the dog ran away. You know, so, and the people have been like footballers and that, like, I've just paid 20 grand for that, you know, and it's like, well, what can I say? You asked me to test it, you know,
ouch.
I've done, you know, and then people have a go at me for testing the dog, but they're selling a product, so it's got to protect the family, right? But I don't really dabble in that market. I do it for certain friends and certain people. And to be honest, my instructors, I give them the dogs. I give them the private lessons now. I let them learn from it. I let them do it. Do you understand what I mean? So they're better in their skills. But yeah, I mean, our dogs are different. Look, at the end of the day, what do
you call them though? If they're not, I know you're not policemen, but you say they're different. Why are they different?
Guard dogs. You can say a protection dog is a guard dog, but it isn't. Right. It isn't a guard dog because it doesn't really think for itself. A protection dog, a personal protection dog, is like having your own bodyguard.
Right.
You know, the problem with protection dogs is that they're not guard dogs. I've got dogs at my house that I've never trained in my life, but they're the best guard dogs there are. I've got a Caucasian Shepherd that's like 120 kilos, and I leave it out, and you ain't getting near my house. If you're 50 metres away, I know about it. And then I'll come downstairs and have to deal with it myself. You know what I mean? It's like, it's an alarm for me. Most protection dogs that are sold, they're all on command, so that worries me. That always worried me. You know, how close can someone get you before you tell the dog to attack?
Right, I see what you're saying.
One the other day, we climbed through a guy's window, the dog was laying down on the floor, and he had to physically tell the dog to go and bite him, and he weren't comfortable with it. So if you've got to tell the dog to go and bite, is that a guard dog? Not. Farmers should react, right?
100%, yeah. That's quite worrying, that, Dan, to be honest with you.
We train security dogs. If you come anywhere near our dog on lead, you're going to get bitten. That's it. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Our dogs are trained to indicate. pick up, indicate. That's all it's for. We patrol with them. The dog indicates on a noise or anything like that, alerts us to that. We go to it, and then it protects us. And we can't release our dogs; it's illegal.
So when you said you haven't personally trained it, but it's a guard dog, does it still see you as the alpha? Like, if you walk out there, it will.
Yeah, definitely. If you come to my house, the dog will be going crazy.
Right.
As soon as I say, "Well, he's all right," you know what I mean?
Right.
If I walk away, he'd be back.
Right. Okay. So that seems like more like, it's no good. You don't want to have to tell the dog to do it, because otherwise someone breaks in your house. What are you going to do? Sit there until you tell them?
These really expensive guard protection dogs. Mm. They're taught to be next to the person all the time. They're not to react for themselves. I like a dog to be suspicious. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you want them to be, I get what you're saying. You want them to be suspicious of the person rather than think, this is all right. I mean, obviously, if it's someone that you seem to be around or know, but then again, they could be the ones breaking in, right? If people get too comfortable. Yeah, it's interesting though, because having looked at your website, it seems a lot of the dogs are, it seems like Alsatians or German Shepherds.
Yeah, German Shepherds or Belgian Malinois or Dutch Herders, which are pretty similar to Malinois.
And so people talk about them being the most, everyone says they're really intelligent dogs, but is that why you use them? Very good command, intelligent?
Very high drive. So if we sell them to the police, military, security officers, they're gonna use their prey drives high, their hunt drives high, their food drives. So that, if you needed them to search for explosives, the hunt drives there. If you needed them to bite, the prey drives there. Do you understand what I mean? It's back to animals, basically. You look at the rawness of the dog, and them type of dogs for us are the best.
It's interesting because a lot of people, obviously, you see things like Rottweilers, Staffs, and like Dobermans and things like that, but you never really see any security or police with them. No,
you do in Germany. You see them in Germany, but to be honest, the thing with dogs now, a lot of the dogs they're kind of like, the footballers are going through this sort of thing at the moment of buying canned coursers. And to be honest, they're showline dogs. They're not working line. They look beautiful. That's how people sell them. You know what I mean?
Italian Mastiff, right? Yeah,
big black Italian Mastiffs and the blue ones, But you look at a working line version of a canned courser, they're a totally different ballgame. So and I understand the personal protection side, because there's got to be an element where the dog is quite relaxed but looks the part as well. You understand what?
Yeah.
So what I'm looking for from a dog is different to what you would look from a dog. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Totally different point of view. My job is operational. Do you understand what I mean? I can't have a pretty looking animal. I can have a pretty looking animal if I breed them right or whatever, but I've got to have the drive to do the job.
Mm. Well, the fact that you've got one at your own house shows that you do trust what they do, and you like proof of the pudding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that something? Is that something? Is that something because you've been through? I mean, have you had people try and break into your house before? Have they stopped you? Anyone coming in?
I haven't. My daughter lost Charles recently. I don't know if you saw that on the internet. She had 5 million shares.
Right.
It went worldwide. She had the Sun newspaper chasing her everywhere. It was just phenomenal. They nicked 2 lilac chows from her garden, and she had working dogs around and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's not. No, to your original question. We keep. Yeah.
So they managed to come in and still even with the dogs there. That's quite.
Yeah, they stole them from my daughter's garden. Yeah, and then we managed to recover them after a little while, couple of weeks.
Won't go into that. So when you talk, that's with the dogs. When you talk about personal security, so anyone out there who's looking into this and thinking, you know what, I've always wondered about personal security, having someone by my side, protection. What does that look like for someone? Generally, do you generally deal with people that have had a threat on them, or is it people that do preventative as well? What's the sort of
50-50. 50-50. Preventive and people that have had a threat. So we deal with all sorts. You know, it could just be looking after a building that's been vandalised. It could be a person who's been threatened due to business practices. It could be absolutely anything. People who have large properties see weird things going on in their area, want us to protect it. People who want to buy dogs from us to protect them, or for us to put a security dog handler on their house, guarding it. I mean, that's quite normal, especially in the big houses in Essex now. You know, a lot of people want, you know, they'll go away for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and then they'll want a dog handler on site that's there at the gate patrolling all night. You understand what I mean? So we do that stuff.
So for someone, so when you say, so you get people that are with, so when people have like the personal detail on them, would that be like 24/7? Would they be in the house with them, or is it generally stay at the gate, or what? So does it just depend on what the person wants?
Client's wishes depends on the size of the property.
Right. Yeah.
What you want, you know, we're capable of living with people. We're capable of sitting in their house. We're capable of patrolling. We can do whatever they want, really.
Yeah. And what's the and so like situations that occur, everyone on your staff is pretty much well trained for anything that can occur.
Yeah. Listen, we've got diversity. So we've got your average static guard, and we've got people that qualified, you know, won the championships for dogs, you know, right, for the National Security Association for Dog Users. You know, we've won the championship for the last 5 years. So we've got the top guy who you would say would be the top dog handler. He probably isn't, but according to them, he is. He's won it, you know. So we've got good bodyguards, we've got good dog handlers, we've got good static guards. It's just what the client needs, really, and what we do.
And what's the sort of cost for that per client? Is it, when you don't have to go completely into it, like ballpark, is it depend on the level of person you're getting to do security for you? Yeah?
Yeah. It just depends on the threat level, what the job is, how long the job's for. It's like normal business, so what we would quote it accordingly, you know.
Yeah, cool. And so it's just like, hours done, I suppose, what threat level, and the amount of people you need to do the job. Yeah. What's the if you could, any stories you got for us, Danny, that you'd be like, you could share that might have come up? Anything you could divulge you've been involved in?
I've got some. What type of story? What do you mean? From like security?
Security wise, any close calls?
Oh, I had a close call with Jude Law in Soho. Yeah, on an advert for a car, walking around Soho with him all night. I've had a couple of close calls. I had a close call on the tube with the All Blacks, believe it or not, when we was bodyguarding the All Blacks on the tube to take them to the West End to do an Adidas day at Carnaby Street.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. Yeah, I've been shot at. I've been, kind of all different things, really.
When you say close call with the All Blacks, was that like, because there's quite a lot of them. There must be about 30 of them. Was it generally?
Yeah, the train once, we had to deal with that and get them on and off. So, you know, sometimes it's really difficult to. Amy Childs, Harry Durbridge, another one. Mm-hmm. I took them to Liverpool many years ago. I don't suppose it was many years ago, but it was a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And one of the producers for the programme that they was doing said, let's go to Liverpool 1, you know, to the shopping centre for the day. I was like, I'm the only bodyguard here. This is not a good thing. These people are like now right up there, you know, like they was doing PAs everywhere at the time. Yeah. You know, I mean, that was an experience, bodyguarding Amy and Harry straight through the middle of Liverpool 1 shopping centre on my own. You know, do you know what I mean? So I've had some. I can imagine. I've had Tim Westwood. I had quite a close call with him. I pretending to me that he was working behind the DJ booth.
Really?
And he needed the lighting out, and he actually come out, pulled a blade, and I took it off him. So he tried to stab him. And I've had a few. Got shot at with paintballs at a house once, non-stop. Covered the whole car and the house in paintball gun.
Lucky you'd rather have that than real bullets, though.
I've had mad. Yeah, I've had some mad experiences. I really have. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's loads.
Yeah, I can imagine there are. Maybe we'll.
Got little Wayne off stage when they threw bottles in it at Stratford. When he first,
really?
yeah, and they all bottled him on the stage. Thousands of people. We got him out quickly. Movado, I've done a lot of. I've had a few little acts. I've done Man United in Brixton as well. I've done personal bodyguard for Pogba. That went wrong. That was one. Yeah, I was doing Pogba. He landed on a helicopter in the Isle of Dogs, and we took him in a car to Surrey Quays, and it was another sports thing anyway. And they basically released all the kids. Stormzy was there. I threw Stormzy out of the way, grabbed hold of Pogba, got him through, and his manager was like, "Oh, you can move him quick." He got swarmed, you know.
Really?
We've had some really mad scenarios. I've been involved where a lot of people got stabbed at a nightclub before, and we've had to deal with that.
And in those situations, mine was clear straight away. Like you're on things like the training just kicked in. It was all autopilot.
I've been in a party one time in Purfleet, and I only went to pay the wages. Me and my friend, who introduced me to you, and he's been a producer for like 30 years. He introduced me to you.
Who is that?
I'll tell you another time, and then you'll know exactly.
Okay.
His name's Jimmy, but he's one of my best friends. And so we went to this party. I went to pay the wages, and yeah, I mean the girl on the doorman, who's a quite well-known doorman around in Essex and that, she was like, "This is going to go off here real bad." And I went inside, and I remember a guy choking someone out, a doorman that I had for me, and honestly, Ryan, it was so dark, and there were so many people in there, and every single person in the place started fighting and stabbing each other, and they were coming directly at us. I had to actually use a guy as a human shield to get myself back. Like I never thought I was going to go home. Like it was bad. And once we got them outside, God knows how we done it. They was just stabbing each other outside on the floor. People just curled over, spurting with blood. And then the police arrived, and they stole the police cars and just drove off.
Really?
Stole the police cars and just drove off in the cars. Yeah, it was just phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I've done in Birmingham on doors as well, where they turned a car over. We done Birmingham at the Q Club. It was renowned for trouble. And I was doing plain clothes part of it, and some people shooting each other, turned the car over and flipped it over on its back, like rocks and over. Unbelievable. I've done some.
I feel like we need to meet up in person and have a little chat. It'd be interesting.
But it's like anybody in the security industry, you know. I know loads of people have been through a lot of stuff. You could tell.
That's why you do. That's why you do the training, right? You hopefully don't need it, but when it does come down to it, your mind's clear. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, you can see it coming. After time, you can see it coming before, especially in bodyguarding. When you're working in the Jude Law incident, he's a lovely person to work for. You know, I was working with him all day, side by side. You know, just with him walking around the streets, and I can see things. You can see things. You're streetwise anyway. You know, a lot of the military bodyguards. They're great people. I know a lot of them, the special forces guys, but they're too regimental. Do you understand what I mean? And then you've got the doorman type. You know, one good job I did do, which was for me was just unbelievable. I'm a massive reggae buff. I used to travel to Jamaica all the time, live with the Rastafari. Honestly, I've loved it. Fantastic. And I used to have a reggae show on radio. And I got the opportunity to bodyguard live on stage UB40.
UB40, really? That's awesome.
Going back to Birmingham. So I was on stage with a very, very good bodyguard called Mark Dawson, who's took people, Adele, everyone, all around the world. He's what he does. He's like a stage manager bodyguard. And he's a fantastic guy, by the way. And we worked together, and he had Ali Astro, but we was on stage for the whole show because they was threatened to get shot at.
Really?
like one of the team. So he was. I mean, I've done some great jobs, man. I've been blessed. I've really, phenomenally blessed. I've met some crazy people in this journey. I really have.
Oh, mate, the best thing about it, Dan, you seem very down to earth still as well. Like, you seem like just a normal guy.
Humble. Got to stay humble, haven't you? Really, what can you do?
Yeah, that's like something I think as well, like your journey with like having, it's another thing at martial arts and things like that teach as well. They keep you humble because you always know that there's someone out there, or there's, you know, that it can be better than you. You learn, but it teaches you to, you know, there's always another way, or someone that is better than you in some way or form. So it keeps you humble. And
we're always learning.
Exactly, and it's a good thing. So what's the next step then? Where are you going? You continue to build the company, the radio show, like, or you got any other plans?
The company, we're really working on it hard. We've got a great team. I've got like my mate Naz, my ops manager. I've got my wife Laura. I've got Jenny, who works in the office, Malik, Dean. I mean, they're all great people, and they've all got so much drive and ambition. I'm blessed with it. I mean, Naz for me come from me from the Olympics, so he knows what I'm about. He understands me, he feels my energy, and they've got so much drive and charisma. You know, you can't go wrong with a team like that. It's all about your team.
But what I'm going to say, just before we get onto that, the Olympics, no scares there at all? There was no, like, bomb threats or anything like that?
Do you know what? The 2012 Olympics, in the early stages of the build, we had a lot of problems. We had a lot of problems from the local people because we were closing roads, so we ended up fighting them. You know, we had people chaining themselves. You know, my allotment getting taken. You know, you're not moving us. We nightclubs were getting locked down. Everything was getting taken down. You know, it was a real hard time for the communities. Mm-hmm. Very hard time for the communities. But when it comes to games time, do you know what? I was on top of the tower blocks in Carpenter's Road at Stratford in the BBC studios. So I would go on foot to the entrance, pick up the gold medalists, walk them through, bodyguard them all the way to the tower blocks, take them up tower block. And you could see, you know, you'd see all the special forces with the firearms on buildings, you know, looking down. You know, that place was so guarded for game times that people don't really, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You know, what I saw, there weren't nothing going to happen in that Olympics. Nothing. There were always threats of explosions and this, that, the other, weren't there? And chemical threats. Do you remember? It was a right time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And, like terrorist attacks, that type of stuff, nothing. It went clean as a whistle. It was beautiful. And I watched it from above. Do you know what I mean? So
that's good. Well, everyone was in a good mood as well. It seemed like we were doing really well. Like, it seemed like a good time. Yeah. The weather was great. It was a good 8 years ago now. No, more than that. 9 years ago now, of course.
Totally different now. It's like, I mean, you've probably seen it. It's unbelievable what they've done to that area, really. Like, regenerating the whole area is unreal, you know?
Yeah.
Basically, not used as much, really. That's a shame.
It is a shame. It's a real shame. Especially all the facilities they've got there, because I know the hockey pitches get used, but I don't think the cycling gets used as much as it should. There's a few things that they do, but there's been a lot of building around there. It has regenerated. That was a good thing. But I mean, it did.
At least the stadium.
Yeah. You're a West Ham fan?
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that stadium, to be honest with you. But yeah, I preferred.
Ground. Everyone loves the original ground. But I suppose people had to move with the times, eh?
Well, it's just as an away fan, having been in Upton Park was one of my favourite places. The away section, it's like any of the London grounds. Maybe we all hate each other, but like in terms of football hate. But Chelsea, Tottenham, West Ham, Arsenal, back in the day, like the away end was class. And now your away end now, I went there a couple of years ago, and I was like, never again. I literally am like 100 foot from the pitch. It's nightmare. Yeah, where you sit is probably all right, but not for good.
It's too big, isn't it? It's massive. But anyway, up's everyone's home. It always will be, isn't it? You know, it's for us.
Yeah, 100%. So no, mate, it's been fascinating talking to you, Dan. Anything else? No worries, mate. Anything else you want to add? So just for people out there, what's the station that you DJ on?
Centre Force Radio. It's on digital Radio London 2. It's also streaming. You can get it through centreforceradio.com. And it's on the Mixcloud as well. It's live on TV on Mixcloud. It has probably about 3 million viewers now. It's very, very. We have some of the biggest names in the house music scene on the station.
And what time is your show then? How often do you do yours?
Wednesday afternoon 4 till 6. I do a drive time show, and I do a show tonight 9 till 11.
So that's Thursdays 9 to 11.
Friday.
Friday. Of course, it's Friday, isn't it? Yeah, Friday 9 to 11. Yeah, so I'm thinking it's Thursday. Yeah, Friday 9 to 11. Awesome, mate. Anything else you want to add, Dan, at this time?
Yeah. The Britannia Canine Security. That's our main business. So anyone wants to get through me on that, no problem.
Perfect, mate. I'll definitely be linking to that on the site. I think it's I mentioned before. I think it was the .com one that we had up here.
BritanniaCanine.com.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Britannia9security.com. Yeah, got you there. Perfect. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, my man. Look forward to having a chat with you at some other time, because it's been fascinating, and we've probably got some more to talk about.
I wish all the listeners a lot of peace, health, and happiness. That's all we can do, eh?
Awesome,
in this time.
100%. Cheers, Dan.
Good man. Good man. Good man. Good man. Good man. Good man.